Namaskar and good morning. I would like to thank TEDx RGNUL for giving me this privilege to share my views, especially on my research on Indian history and archaeology. I would like to add two, three more points about what I do. I am an author of 8 books, the latest being Saffron Swords, which is a bestseller. It is a book on 52 tales of valor of our warrior ancestors from the 8th century till independence. And since the last 11 years, I have been visiting historical places across the country and trying to find out the chronological dates pertaining to our ancient history, as well as to know about our warrior ancestors. So I would like to start with a quote by Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican-born political leader and social activist. He said, "A country's people that has no knowledge about their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." Do we really know about our past history in the true sense of the term? It is a big no to many and a small yes to few. So let me give a brief account about our ancient history, especially on the distortions of the chronological history of India from ancient to early medieval period. Our civilization is the world's oldest surviving civilization dating back to thousands of years. There are archaeological evidences to prove this. Yet, we could see many distortions in our academic history books that we have been studying since the last 72 plus years. So in the Wikipedia, if you search for, with the keyword Vedic history timeline, you will find 1500 BCE to 600 BCE as the Vedic timeline. But if 1500 BCE is the start of the Vedic era, then when did the Ramayana events take place? When did the Mahabharata war happen? Because these two events, which many of our world historians and Indian historians term as myths, are actually historical events. And these events took place after the Vedic period. So according to some 200 plus researchers by scholars from India as well as from across the world, the Mahabharata war took place some 5,000 to 7,500 years ago. And before that, the Ramayana events took place. So when we speak about the Ramayana, a few months back, there has been news about the US scientists carbon dating the Ram Setu stones to at least 7,000 years. And there have been several archaeological excavations across the country. The excavations in the Saraswati Indus river belt led to the discovery of artifacts that date back from 4,000 to 9,000 years. Then excavations in the Asurgarh Fort area in Orissa, Kilari in Tamil Nadu, and Narmada river belt has familiarized us with the artifacts that date back from 3,000 years to lakhs of years. So you must have heard about the Narmada Nancy human skull discovered in the Narmada river belt. That dates back to 5 lakh to 6 lakh years. And a few months back, I had been to the Bhimbetka caves. There are 750 rock shelters that spreads across 10 kilometers. And in rock shelter number 10, there is a painting of Nataraja that dates back to the Mesolithic era. The Mesolithic era dates back to at least 20,000 years. So 20,000 years ago, Nataraja, the Shiva, was worshipped by our ancestors. So Vedic era, if we consider the Vedic era timeline according to the literary evidences, archaeological evidences, epigraphical and inscriptional proofs, according to the Puranas, then the timeline has been fixed at 10,000 to 15,000 BCE. because we cannot depend only on the archaeological excavations. There have to be literary evidences as well. And traces of habitation and paintings in the Bhimbetka caves dates back from 4,000 years to 1 lakh years. So, when we speak about the Maurya period, in our history books, we have read that the Maurya dynasty flourished around 300 BCE. But according to a book, The Chronology of Ancient India by Sri Vedbir Arya, the Mauryans flourished around 1600 BCE. And according to the distorted version, the Guptas flourished around 4th century to 6th century CE. But again, according to that book and according to various other epigraphical, inscriptional and various other evidences, the Gupta period flourished around 365 BCE. So there is a difference of 300 to several thousand years in the chronological dating of our historical era. So the history textbooks need to be rewritten, but again, we are not sure when this will happen. But the citizens themselves can spread awareness amongst themselves, and then we can pressurize the government to bring changes in our academic historical textbooks. So I would like to narrate about the tales of valor of few of our warrior ancestors. Do we really know about our warrior ancestors, especially from the 8th century till 1947? Our warrior ancestors who saved our great-great-great-grandparents, because of whom we are here, carrying forward the legacy of our thousands of years old civilization and identity. Unfortunately, we know nothing. In our history books, since the last 72 years, we have grown up reading about who Muhammad Ghori is, who Babur is, who Akbar is, who Lord Curzon is, who Robert Clive is, who Lord Dalhousie is, who Lord Mountbatten is. But we know nothing about the local warriors of the soil, because there have been examples of hundreds and thousands of our warrior ancestors who offered resistance, won battles, and fought till their last breath. And these chronicles have been purposefully hidden in our history textbooks. And during my 11 years of research across the country, I have visited people, I have studied available literature by our own Indian historians and Persian historians and British historians. And I've also interpreted inscriptional records. So I would like to tell about one inscription that I have come across in Kamrupa in Assam. It is the Kanai Borasi rock inscription. And according to the inscription, because whenever we discuss about a historical tale, there rises a controversy that this historical character is a myth. He didn't exist at all, or she did not exist at all. But there are inscriptional evidences. Now, going back, I'd like to say that truth should prevail in our history books. So I am not saying that the glorification of invaders should not happen in our history books. Their account should also be included in our history books. It is fine. But why do we ignore the other two perspectives? There are three perspectives in Indian history, especially if we consider our history from the 8th century till 1947. And these three perspectives are, number one, chronicling about the local warriors of the soil. Number two, chronicling about the invaders who came and ruled parts of our country. Number three, chronicling about the atrocities, the invaders, the looters, and the plunderers committed on the Indian population, on the Indian heritage structures, the thousands of temples that they have destroyed, then about the wealth, millions of dollars of wealth that they have looted from the country. This atrocity should also be equally highlighted in our history textbooks. But only one perspective is highlighted, and the rest two perspectives have been completely ignored. So as truth should prevail, it is one of my very little attempt to spread awareness about our warrior ancestors, and that led me to write Saffron Swords, which is a bestseller. So I was telling about the Kanai Varasi rock inscription that I came across in Kamrupa in Assam. That inscription has details about a battle won by Raja Prithu, the ruler during the time of Kamrupa. He won the battle against Bakhtiyar Khilji in 1206 CE. So most of us know who Bakhtiyar Khilji is. He destroyed two ancient universities of India, Nalanda University and Bikramshila University. Nalanda University dates back to 2000 plus years. It was constructed by a Gupta ruler, and as I mentioned, the Guptas flourished from 365 BCE. So it dates back to 2000 plus years. So students from across the world came and studied in the university. At the time when Khilji attacked the university, there were 10,000 students and 2,000 teachers. He executed them all, and few of the students and teachers somehow escaped. Then Khilji, along with his forces, set fire to the university libraries. There were 3 multi-story libraries that accommodated thousands and lakhs of manuscripts, right from the Vedic era till that particular period. So he set fire to the libraries. According to an account by Persian historian Minhaj-e-Siraj in his book Tabakat-e-Nasiri, the libraries burned for over 3 months. So you can well imagine the vast loss of our knowledge heritage. And Raja Prithu defeated this barbaric plunderer, because besides destroying the universities, he also looted wealth, destroyed other heritage structures, destroyed temples. He took many of our mothers, daughters, and sisters as sex slaves and sold them in the market in Arabia. So he attacked Assam, and Raja Prithu defeated him so badly that he became bedridden for life. And after this failed expedition, Bakhtiyar Khilji could no longer commit any loot or plunder. So this is a very glorious chapter in our history book. But no one across the country, not even many from Assam, know about Raja Prithu. So I would also like to narrate one tale of valor about Banda Bahadur from Punjab. He was a disciple of Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And we all know many of our Sikh gurus sacrificed their lives for dharma, for the motherland. Banda Bahadur was a disciple of Guru Gobind Singh. He led around 17 battles against the Islamic rulers. And Punjab was then under the occupancy of the Islamic rulers. He won 14 battles, and he regained Punjab from the Islamic invaders. And when he was caught by the Mughals, he was tortured for several days. And I would not want to describe the barbarism that the Mughals did to Banda Bahadur. But again, without telling about that, I won't be able to stop myself. So he was tortured to death. His skin was peeled out, his eyes were gouged out, and then he was executed. Even his son's heart was pulled out and stuffed into his mouth. So this is one example of the sacrifice that and the fight that our ancestors did for the motherland, for dharma. I would again like to narrate a story about Kuili, Commander Kuili, a freedom fighter from Tamil Nadu. For this, I need to tell a little bit about the background story about Rani Velu Nachiyar. Rani Velu Nachiyar happens to be the first woman ruler who won a battle against the British. Her husband was defeated in a battle by the British along with the Nawab of Arcot. After this failed defeat, Velu Nachiyar, who was the queen, she fled from Sivagangai. Sivagangai was the kingdom that her husband ruled, and her husband was killed in the battle. So she fled from the kingdom along with her daughter, and in a duration of 8 years, she arranged a huge army, and she attacked the British after 8 long years. Then she had a women wing, and Kuili was the commander of that wing. She defeated the British in 2 battles, and before reaching Sivagangai, she came to know that the Raja Rajeshwari temple in Sivagangai housed ammunition of the British that had enough ammunition to destroy their whole army. So Kuili devised a plan. They camped a few kilometers away from Sivagangai, and on that particular day when the battle was to take place, Kuili came across a few devotees who were walking towards Sivagangai. Because the temples there, the devotees were not allowed to worship in the temples, especially the Raja Rajeshwari temple where the ammunition of the British was stored. She came to know that on that particular day, which was a Vijaya Dashami day, the devotees were allowed, only the women devotees were allowed to enter the temple and offer a diya. Kuili took the opportunity. She and her army wing dressed themselves as simple devotees, and they entered the temple. But somehow the British came to know that they were not ordinary women. They smelled something fishy. So they started firing at the army of Velu Nachiyar, the women army of Velu Nachiyar. Then when Kuili came to know that they would all be killed this way, she immediately rushed towards the huge lamp where the diya was burning in front of the deity. And there was a huge pot of ghee. She poured the ghee over herself, and she took the oil lamp and rushed towards the ammunition store located very close by. And she lit herself, and she burst in flames, and the ammunition store exploded. And all the ammunition of the British was destroyed. Because of Kuili's sacrifice, Velu Nachiyar was able to win the battle. And she happens to be the first woman to win a war against the British. So there are 52 tales of valor in Saffron Swords. This is the first book in the series. There will be many more volumes coming up. And I'd like to appeal that please read about our warrior ancestors who sacrificed their lives, who fought, who offered resistance, because of whom we are here, carrying forward the legacy of our thousands of years old civilizational identity. I am also the founder of an e-magazine called myindiamyglory.com. It sings about India from the ancient to the present with special focus on history and heritage. And please visit the website myindiamyglory.com to also have a glimpse about our rich ancient past and the glory of our warrior ancestors. Thank you, TEDx, once again.